Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Psycho's Platters, episode 113, 25-cent LP Finds Part 2, El Doso. Wish it was sponsored by Waffle House. Now, I want to let you guys know something. I know some people have still been asking about my fight with my dad and the health crisis there. I am led to believe that I will know the test results tomorrow on everything. So, continued prayers, everybody, please, here in the VC. Well appreciative. So, like I said here before, this is part 2 of the LP finds from the thrift store that they sell 25-cent albums. I pulled 10 of these ones for the second part here. Hope you enjoyed the last part that I did. This one here, we're going to start off with, do you get into Christian music? Do you get into like older school Christian music? Now, I'm not talking about 30s, 40s, 50s gospel quartet stuff. I'm talking about contemporary current Christian, or otherwise known as the CCM market. That kind of got started in the mid to late 1970s, pretty much. This artist here that I found 2 of his albums helped to kind of usher in that period. From 1979 on Pat Boone's Lamb and Lion Records, Dan Peek with All Things Are Possible. Now, if pardon the glare, but the shrink's still on it. Listen, if Dan Peek, you know that name already, that's fantastic for you. But if you don't, Dan Peek was 1/3 of the group America. Yeah, you know, those 70s soft rock trio. From 1970 to 1977, he was in the band. He left shortly after the Harbor album from 1977 and became a born-again Christian, and this was his first album, All Things Are Possible, released in 1979. This would be the last time, though, that America would reunite on record because Jerry Beckley and Dewey Bunnell were background vocals on Love Is Just Another Word. Also, you have members of Toto on this particular release as well. This is the front, this is the back. 5 years later, he put out Doer of the Word, which was on Home Sweet Home Records. There's the front, there's the back. This one here, I couldn't figure out who was playing on it with them, and there's just no information. But I remember in high school, I actually listened to this. I thought it was pretty good. I really, really did. And then he kind of just disappeared in the 90s, so to speak. If I remember correctly, he briefly did do a Reunited America tour. I'm not entirely sure what year that was, but he did that for a little bit. And believe it or not, I found out that when he died in 2011, he lived in Farmington, Missouri, and I guess he even did a book signing like within a few weeks of his death. He was doing that, so that I thought was cool. From 1985 on MCA Records, Headpins. Yes, Headpins. This one here, basically, the band Headpins. Oh boy, she looks so. Got started out as a side project for Chilliwack, which is another Canadian band that I happen to like too. This is the front, this is the back. Headpins still going with about 2 original members. Sometimes I get soundtracks and sometimes I don't. This one here just kind of was a little bit interesting, from 1985 on MCA Records. Secret Admirer. Now, I don't remember this film, thank God. You know, they put out a lot of 80s crap, you know, for movies of dumb teenage whatever. Some of them were decent, like Pretty in Pink and a few other ones, but some other ones was like, this one here, the movie, actually, the only recognizable names I'm getting out of this are Lori Loughlin and Kelly Preston. That's it, pretty much. Now, who's on this thing? Well, right off the bat, you've got, let's see here, Van Stevenson. Van Stevenson, he'd end up doing a couple odds and ends. I want to say Modern Day Delilah comes into my head. I think I got that right. Tony Carey, who used to be with Rainbow and Planet P. He had his own solo career. He still does, too. Kim Wilde, if you remember her, Kids of America, You Keep Me Hanging On. She ended up doing that. Don Felder does a solo track called She's Got a Part of Me. Felder basically in the 80s, he only had that Airborne album from 82, and then this. Something tells me he was on another soundtrack, but it's escaping me. Climax, yeah. Nick Kershaw, that name sounds familiar, but I don't remember why. Let's see here. Here's another one here. It says some performed by Rosemary Butler and Arnold McCuller. But what's cool about this portion is that this one song, "Just a Dream Away," is co-produced by Bill Payne, who was a member of Little Feat and the Doobie Brothers. So I thought that's kind of neat. Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles, of course, comes up with "Leaving It Up to You," and Jan Hammer does "Finale," and he also does the rest of the incidental music. So I haven't heard it yet. Could be curious. I'm not entirely sure. This next one was a little bit weird in my opinion. From 1976 on the Sudarshan label, I hope I'm getting that right, "Golden Avatar with a Change of Heart." Now, Golden Avatar was basically started by was formed by Michael Cassidy, who was a devout Krishna. Okay, he ends up making this one album. I haven't listened to it yet. I went and dug around Discogs and other little bits of information. There was a neat little website called Weird Wax. All right, go check that out. They got all different kinds of information. That's where I got this info from, is that Michael Cassidy, devout Krishna, it's not really as much of a religious album as you'd think, knowing that fact. It's actually more folk psych. It's a combination of that stuff. And it's similar in overtones to material like from Yes, Alan Parsons, or ELO. At least that's what I'm going based on. This is the front. This is the back. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be all about. If anybody's heard that one, throw your comments down on the bottom here. From 1982, RCA Records, "Steel Breeze." All right, they were one of those ones. They got a top 20 hit called "You Don't Want Me Anymore." This particular album was produced by Kim Fowley. Yeah, Kim Fowley, even in the 80s, was still doing stuff. Former manager to the Runaways, involved in the Hollywood Argylls of the 60s. Yeah, and all kinds of other fun stuff. This is the only album that really got them anywhere. And after the second album, they just kept going into smaller and smaller labels. And the second album, if I remember correctly, had Kevin Chalfant, who would end up, he was in the band 707 and in the 90s, The Storm, with a couple members of Journey. But like I said, the first album's the good one here, but by 91, they were toast. Never saw this particular album before from Bonnie Tyler. I normally don't get into her, but I'm kind of curious about this one. From 1988, "Notes from America." That was the American title of this album. For everywhere else in the world, it was called "Hide Your Heart." Now, why? Because it turned out that this album, which was her seventh one, I did not realize she had, 7 albums already. This has got a lot of stuff that ended up being hits for other people. Now, "Hide Your Heart," for example, oh boy, talk about within a year's time, 4 different people covered this. Now, this is 88. By 89, you've got Kiss. They ended up doing it on their Hot in the Shade album. Ace Frehley, ex-Kiss, on the Trouble Walking album. Robin Beck, and of all people, Molly Hatchet on the Lightning Strikes album from 89 at Capitol. All 4 of them within a year. I'm like, come on, seriously? What's the point? So that was the first one. On here also, "Save Up All Your Tears." Cher would end up covering this on the Love Hurts album from 91. And there's a song on here called "The Best," which Tina Turner covered that, and I can't sing Tina Turner, but it goes, "Simply the best." Yeah, you know the rest. Better than all the rest. That's me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So all of those ended up being hits for other people. Some of the session people on here, Holly Knight. Originally, she got started out in Holly and the Italians, if I remember correctly, "Miles Away." That's a good little song. She ended up working with Paul Stanley from Kiss as well, and a few other people. Tony Levin, Remember King Crimson also did session work for Peter Gabriel, John Lennon, bunch of others. John Regan from Fraley's Comet, go figure. Maybe it was his idea to do Hide Your Heart. I don't know. And lastly, Joe Lynn Turner shows up on background vocals, of course, from Rainbow and singing for Yngwie Malmsteen. So kind of interesting on that little bit. Now, let's turn over a second here to some Canadian rock, eh? I found some albums from Prism. Yeah, you know what? Prism tried. Prism tried down here. They really weren't that big here. This one here, 1978, See Forever Eyes on the GRT label. Nothing really, big and get in there. Fantastic on that. By 1981, though, they were on Capitol Records. Small changes. Several of the cuts off of this album are co-written with Bryan Adams. Go figure. This is shortly, of course, before Cuts Like a Knife. There's the front. There's the back. Which, by the way, I saw Bryan Adams last week. He was here in town. He did an okay show. He did. And lastly, right after Styx, Tommy Shaw cuts What If. This is still on the shrink. 1985 on A&M Records. This is the front. This is the back. It's on the white and silver A&M label. Needless to say, he had his band already formed already. The only person that was known in the band, Steve Holley, his drummer. Steve Holley, of course, got his start in what band in the late 70s? Who said Paul McCartney and Wings? You get a gold star if I had one. Steve Holley actually shows up right in the middle of the London Town album sessions, and he basically is with them from mid to late 78 all the way through back to the Egg, concerts at Campuchia, and then, well, until early 81 when, well, the whole Japan incident, not the Japan incident, well, basically when Paul broke up Wings. So he was there for a few years. All right. New channels to check out on YouTube. L Mounts, as in mounting something. L Mounts. Aaron, Aaron Conn, Conn. The Vinyl Stomp, and Sable Stable. Check out all of those channels. I recently subscribed to them. I think they're all kick-ass and great. Rest of the shout-outs, Wax Museum with Ronnie Dark. Great. I got to hear bits and pieces of it. I had a barbecue for my birthday. Go figure. Yeah, it was my birthday. PM me with appropriate gifts that are even belated. And I loved the Fontana Profile show, and they even played a Monkey's Twin Spin. That's the reason why I love this show so much. So Wax Museum with Ronnie Dark, and then followed by Night Owl Lounge with Mike Adams. Like them both on Facebook and listen Sunday nights 6 to 9 p.m. and 9 to 10 Central Standard Times, both shows. Okie dokie. Shindig, the best damn English rock magazine, period. I mean that wholeheartedly. I love Record Collector and Goldmine, but Shindig's what really gets me in here. All right. Also, Thrifty Music Collectors Group, Tim Smith and Company. Always. There's more members every week. I'm seeing more members grow. It's beautiful. There are over 100 members right now. And lastly, the YouTube vinyl community. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here either. So I want everybody to take care. God bless. See you guys all next time around.